Greeting aspirants, welcome to a new session, and in this session we are going to discuss important articles from the Hindu of 14th July 2023. So before moving on with the session, let's have a look about different articles that we are going to discuss today. So there are two articles from the polity section. One is on the recent judgment that was made by the Allahabad High Court, and another one is on the free speech of the scientists. One article is from the recent GST Council meeting that took place. Another other one is from Science and Tech, and it is about the Rafael M jets. The next one will be from the health segment, and it is about a treatment that has been developed by Indo-Japanese researchers, and this treatment is of Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And the last one will be about a society, or it is about a tribal group which follows a Jewish custom, and that is particularly living in northeastern part of India and some part of Myanmar. So without any further delay, let's get our discussion going. So the article that we are going to discuss is about a verdict that Allahabad High Court gave. Actually what happened is, there was a couple who was in living relationship, and actually the couple was interfaith. It means they were from different religious groups. So the Allahabad High Court, it refused to give protection which these couple were asking for. And the reason that it cited, Allahabad High Court cited, was that extramarital and premarital sex is not recognized under the Muslim law. In this case, the man was from Muslim sect and the girl or woman was from Hindu sect. So this reply of Supreme Court, or this judgment, it actually undermined several Supreme Court judgments that were delivered on the legality of living relationship. So first of all, we'll see what are the important Supreme Court judgments that were given on living relationship. In 2006, in Lata Singh versus State of UP case, Supreme Court established that two persons of different sex, if they are living together, they are not doing anything illegal. Again in 2010, Khushbi versus Kanhaiya Mal case, it again established a living relationship between two consenting adults of heterogenic sex does not amount to any offense, even though it may be perceived as immoral. So at several occasions, Supreme Court has cited that anything which is popular in society and in norm or regulation, it is not necessary that it is right. For example, in the judgment of same-sex marriage, Supreme Court cited that anything which is practiced in society or anything which is customary in society does not make it fit or does not make it right. Again in 2013, Supreme Court in Indra Sharma versus VKV Sharma case, it established that a women partner in a living relationship is actually protected by the same act by which any married woman is protected against domestic violence, and that act is Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. So this judgment of Allahabad High Court actually raised several questions. One of the question is that can a personal law overtake a fundamental right? So we'll try to find the answer of this question, and we'll also try to see different constitutional issues with this particular judgment. So what are the issues with this judgment? Actually, the first issue is, rather than taking the path of constitutional morality or constitutional principle, the High Court took the path of social morality, and it failed to recognize the Supreme Court's repeated affirmations on the importance of constitutional morality in personal relations. Again, this judgment disregarded the Supreme Court's precedent. Precedent means anything or any judgment which is treated as a standard. For example, if Supreme Court gives any judgment, so the judgment of that particular case will be treated as a standard, and throughout India, anything or any case related to that particular subject will be verdicted according to the set standard by the Supreme Court. So this Allahabad High Court disregarded the Supreme Court several judgments. The judgments that were given on living relationship. And despite those judgments were cited several times in Allahabad High Court. And the reason that Allahabad High Court gave was that Supreme Court didn't make living relationship important by giving that judgment. And actually that judgment is not applicable to the specific case that we are talking about, according to Allahabad High Court. It gave its judgment by relying on personal law of marriage. So it is particularly irrelevant when it comes to the conflict between the personal law and fundamental right, and it is the right to life, Article 21. Again, one issue can be seen is the inclination of this judgment was towards orthodoxy. So it is obvious, very much obvious, that in judiciary or in society itself, there has been sense of religious revivalism, and therefore the judgments are taking a turn back, and it is going towards social orthodoxy. Again, it failed to interpret the Supreme Court's observations that were made on the different occasions on living relationship. What was the interpretation of the Allahabad High Court? The interpretation was that the Supreme Court's judgment was not very much specific, or it is not very much fitting for the specific case that we are talking about. And it again failed to uphold the fundamental rights. So at last, I'd like to end this article by one thought of mine. Actually, evolution is the nature itself. Everything, life, its principles, humans, everything keeps evolving. And being a student of sociology, I have observed that any customary ritual or any principle which doesn't fit the need of society of a particular time actually gets vanished. जो 2000 साल पहले जो नियम या फिर रेगुलेशंस बने थे, वो जरूर नहीं कि आज की सोसाइटी में फिट बैठते. So in order to protect our custom and rituals, we'll have to make it evolving, ताकि उस समय की जरूरत के हिसाब से लोगों को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा फायदा पहुंच सके, ना कि उसे issues create. So this was it in this article. Let's move on to a different one. Let's move to a different article, and let me start this article by saying of John Milton. The saying is, "Give me the liberty to know, to utter, and to argue freely, according to conscience, and above all liberties." John Milton was a very bold poet of 17th century, and this saying clearly depicts the importance of freedom of speech and expression, and this article talks about the same. Actually, what happened is, there was going to be a small meeting which was going to be held on the topic of UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and there was some administrative action taken against the participants. So about 500 or more different academicians and scholars signed a petition expressing their agitation and anger on those administrative actions. So there were two scholars from a university in Punjab, and those two also got notice. So this article talks about the importance of freedom of speech and expression, especially in scientific community. It deals with the question that scientific community can be treated as a part of society or not. So let's start the discussion. First of all, let us see the freedom of speech and expression. It is actually, we all know, it is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 19A, and it is only for Indian citizens. Expression involves speech, writing, printing, pictures, or any other mode. Article 19(1)A, it provides this article is only for Indian citizens. And again, it doesn't only provide the right to speak, but it also provides a right to not to speak. And expressing through artistic and commercial forms, it guarantees freedom of the press, freedom of commercial advertisements, right against tapping of telephonic conversations, a right to know about the government activities, a right to telecast, right against imposition of pre-censorship on a newspaper. It provides right against any ban called by a political party or organization. It also provides right to demonstration or picketing, but remember, right to strike is not covered under this article. There are also some reasonable restrictions on this particular fundamental right. Reasonable restrictions will be when it comes to sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, contempt of court, defamation, and incitement to an offense. So these are some grounds on which the reasonable restrictions can be put on this particular fundamental right. So let us see what is the significance of freedom of speech and expression, especially in scientific community. So scientific research institutes, they are not different, or they are not the alienated part of the society, but actually they are the part of the broader society. How? We will see in a bit. For example, any sort of research or inquiry, it relies on public funding. For example, recently, a quantum mission, it involves 6,000 crore investment, and that is the public money, public funding. So how we can deny that scientific research institute is not a part of the society? Because the research that they are taking, and the failure and the success of research will ultimately affect the society. It also involves that they are responsible to educate and express themselves on matter of public interest. So it is very hard to create a boundary between what is considered science and what is not science. For example, investigation on the climate change, or study of colonialism and historical responsibility. So this all investigation, research, it all comes under the scientific community. So these things only help us to determine where to put our focus, which situation or which scenario requires our ultimate focus, so that we can change anything which might go against us. So these are some of the points on whose basis we can say that scientific research institutes and scientific community is a part of the broader society. So their research also provides a chance so that the people and the administrative section, or it could mean the government, can decide about how science is going to be applied. For example, I just gave the example of this, the National Quantum Mission. It involves the public investment of 6,000 crore. So all the notices that were released for those persons who are involved in this meeting and those who signed the petition in a particular university in Punjab, they were given on the basis of Central Civil Service Conduct Rules. So on this basis, the notice was given to them. But Allahabad High Court has held that the CCS, it means Central Civil Service Rules, have no application to Central University. So in fact, we can say these universities or their administration is actually afraid that the government might get disappointed about what happening in the university, and due to the fear of that only, they are not letting the member of scientific community have a discussion on any topic which can be affecting a public life. And not only Allahabad High Court, in 2020 Tripura High Court expressed that rules do not deprive citizens of their right to free speech. So this was it in this article. Let's move to a different one, and it is about GST Council meeting that recently concluded. So this GST Council meeting was 50th GST Council meeting. So in this article we are going to see what is GST Council meeting and what were the different decisions that were taken in this GST Council meeting. So first of all, GST Council meeting is a joint forum of center and state. It is established by the President as per Article 279A of the amended Constitution. So it comes to a question that is GST Council is a constitutional body or a statutory body? So it is a constitutional body because it was formed by an act which amended the Constitution. The members of GST Council meeting, there is Union Finance Minister, a Union Minister of State, and Union Minister of State from the center, and members representing different states. So in this 50th GST Council meeting, the changes some changes were made in tax rate slabs. Some articles were included or some articles were exempted. Tax rates for uncooked, unfried snack pellets was reduced, and also tax rates on imitation zari thread were also reduced. The medicines which are used for rare disease will also be exempted from GST. Again, there will be reduction in taxes in LD slag. LD slag means remainings during steel manufacturing. तो स्टील मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के दौरान जो रिमेनिंग्स बच जाते हैं उसको हम LD slag बोलते हैं. And the reduction in taxes were also noticed on fish soluble paste. Fish soluble paste is also remainings which are formed during the production of the fish feeding commodities or fish oil. Satellite launch service will continue to be exempted from the GST. It means it will be out of the GST taxation system. And to make the process easier for goods and transport agencies, there were several decisions were taken. And again, there clarification for the taxability of certain services was also provided. For example, the taxation of food and beverages in cinema halls will be dependent upon how the tickets are purchased. It means if these beverages and foods are provided with the ticket, the taxation will be different, and if they are bought individually, the taxation will be different. This GST Council meeting worked for facilitating trade. So some measures were taken to facilitate the trade. For example, there was a discussion of establishment of GST appellate tribunal to resolve disputes. So it will enhance trading, because if any taxpayer has issues, he or she has to go to High Court, and already High Court is filled with a lot of different cases. So it will take some time to get him justice. So GST appellate tribunal will resolve this issue, and so the trade facility will be enhanced. There was again simplification in annual returns. For example, the small taxpayers are exempted from filing annual returns, and it would improve the input service distributor mechanism. It means ISD mechanism. What is input service distributor mechanism? Input service distributor means any taxpayer who has multiple branches of his or her enterprise. So the mechanism through which he applies for input credit by providing invoices or receipts, it is called input service distributor mechanism. This GST Council meeting also streamlined the compliances and simplified GST processes. For example, it introduced electronic bill generation system on the purchase or on the trade of gold and precious stones. And it also enhanced the special composition scheme for specific industries. For example, now there will be 28% tax levied on the face value of all bets placed in online games, casinos, or horse racing. So this is it in this article. In this article we saw what is the GST Council and what are the different decisions that were taken in 50th GST Council meeting. So let's move on to a different article. So the next article that we are going to discuss is, it is related to defense. As our PM is flying to Paris, the Defense Acquisition Council has approved a plan to buy 26 Rafale M jets. So through this article, we'll try to understand what is Defense Acquisition Council. We'll also learn about Rafale M jets. And when our PM is visiting there, he is receiving the highest civilian and military honor of the France. So we'll also see about that particular honor. The first of all, Rafale M, it means the marine variant of Rafale jets. It is the fourth generation fighter jet. It is designed and developed by Dassault Aviation of France. Let's see some of its features. It has delta wing and twin engines, and it can carry up to 9.5 tons of weapon, fuel tanks and pods. It is also capable of launching both the conventional and nuclear missiles as well. And it can do it by flying at a very low level with very high speed. It also has a stealth feature which helps it to evade enemy radars. And it has been specifically designed to operate from 40,000 ton class aircraft carriers. So the INS Vikrant that we have is Rafale M variant is perfectly suited for INS Vikrant. What is the significance of Rafale M for the Indian Navy? So it will help in upgradation of Indian Navy's fleet of fighters, as Indian Navy is planning to decommission about 43 Russian MiG-29K fighter jets. So it will provide continuity into the operations of Indian Navy, and it will also provide integrated operation with Air Force variant. How? Because the 85% of its components is similar to the Air Force variant of Rafale. That will be very advantageous, as the spares and maintenance will be shared between the two services. And due to these advantages only, there will be continuity and efficiency in functioning of Rafale M during war times. And as I mentioned earlier, the introduction of Rafale M fighters, it will fulfill the fleet of INS Vikrant, which is India's first indigenous aircraft carrier. And it will also give a strong warning to our rivals like Pakistan and China. So let's see about INS Vikrant. It is India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, weighted about 45,000 tons, and it can carry about 36 aircrafts. In these 36 aircrafts, 26 fixed wing combat aircraft and mix of helicopters. And the Rafale M has exceptionally strong airframe because it is made up of advanced composite materials and corrosion resistant alloys. So it will help it in surviving and withstanding severe tropical environment of India, and therefore it can perform for a longer period. So let's learn about Defense Acquisition Council. The DAC was formed after the recommendation made by the group of ministers on reforming the national security system, and it was recommended in 2001. It is the highest decision-making body in Defense Ministry about new policies and capital acquisition for all the three services. It is headed by Defense Minister, not Chief of Integrated defense staff but defense minister, as he is the chairman of this council. Let's learn the highest civilian and military award that our PM got while his visit to France, and it is Legion of Honor. It has 5 variants, that is Knight, Officer, Commander, Grand Officer and Grand Cross. Our PM is getting the Grand Cross variant of Legion of Honor. It is France's highest civilian and military honor, and it is the highest French decoration, and it is given to most deserving citizens in all fields of activity. And throughout the period, it has been conferred to very prominent personalities for about 2 centuries, as it was established by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802. PM Modi was given the Grand Cross variant of Legion of Honor. Although this award is given only to French nationals, but it is also given to those foreigners who have served France or uphold its values. And around 300 people are given this honor each year. Let's see some of the prominent awardees who are given this award. For example, Nelson Mandela, Angela Merkel, King Charles of England, Vladimir Putin, and Boutros Boutros-Ghali. So this was it in this article. In this article, we saw some facts about Rafale Marine variant and how it is going to help India's security, and we also saw about Defense Acquisition Council and the Grand Cross of Legion of Honor. So let's move to the next article, and it is related to health. As Indo-Japanese researchers have developed a treatment for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So we'll see what this Duchenne's muscular dystrophy is. Dystrophy is related to dystrophin, which is a hormone which helps in efficient functioning and efficiency in movement of muscles. So what happens in this Duchenne's muscular dystrophy is this enzyme cannot be produced, and therefore the movement of muscles gets retarded and muscles gets weakened. It is a genetic disorder, and it is characterized by growing muscles degeneration and weakness, as dystrophin enzyme cannot be produced. It occurs at early childhood, about the age of 2 and 3, and it is known to affect boys. So let's see the different treatments that is available for this Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. Before 1970, the median lifespan of a person with this particular disorder was around 18 years, but over the period, the longevity increased due to anti-inflammatory medications and steroids. But then also, it is about average lifespan is about 20 to 30 years. 20 to 30 years. So some of the therapy or processes through which this disease can be treated, one is gene therapy and another one is exon skipping. So this was it in this article. In this article, we studied about Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The next article that we have is related to a tribe which is residing in northeastern part of India and some part of Myanmar, and it is Binai Manasi. So there is a story that during a Syrian invasion on Israel. It was about 740 BC or about that period. The 12 tribes or the 12 original inhabitants of that land were exiled, and there were total 12 tribes at that period. Out of those 12 tribes, 2 were mainly known to have survived, until one rabbi, Eliyahu Awil, visited this part of the earth and discovered one of the tribe, and it is Bnai Manasseh. It is descendants of the biblical Israelite tribe of Manasseh who live in northeastern state of India, Manipur and Mizoram. They claim that they have maintained Jewish customs and practices, but over the period there has been some changes in these practices, and they have maintained these customs and practices through oral traditions. They were exiled from Israel and ended up in northeastern India. They also observe Jewish traditions, for example, celebrating Jewish New Year. They were discovered in South Asia by Rabbi Eliyahu Awil. And then after, he convinced Israeli authorities to recognize them as a practicing Jews. They recently gained attention and support from Jewish organizations. And one of the reasons is due to the outbreak of very violent riot in Manipur. Therefore, some members undergone conversion and they went to Israel, and they are officially recognized as Jews by the Israeli government. There are about 10,000 of this particular type, 10,000 people who are living in Israel, and there are 5,000 who still remain in Manipur and Mizoram. So this was it in this article, and with this article we come to the end of this particular session. I hope this session would be fruitful for you. So until next session, keep learning and be healthy. Thank you.